Assalamu alaikum, my name is Fedi Lecamus. I went from $0 struggling to make money to 50k in cash collected over the last 3 months and over 6 figures in the last year. Alhamdulillah, after I applied this lost, forgotten Islamic secret. And inshallah in this video, I'll share with you the principle that will allow you to achieve your financial goals, but obviously while getting you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That way you can finally retire your parents, get closer to Allah, take care of yourself and your family, and inshallah be able to have absolute freedom. When I started my coaching business, I had a very ambitious goal. I wanted to make 10k per month in 60 days. So I quickly made my offer, picked my niche, and started outreaching as soon as I could. However, as soon as I started outreaching, I can still remember just a pain shot through my chest. It was crippling. All the excitement I had for the business completely gone. And to be honest, I didn't even want to make 10k per month anymore. I just wanted to lie in bed and watch YouTube. I literally went from Superman, right, excited, motivated, ready to conquer, to Potato Man, just lazy and unmotivated. I'll never forget the rush of anxiety and the doubt that plagued my mind, because I was completely paralyzed. The days were zooming by and my deadline was ticking closer and closer, which just made the feeling in my chest and the doubt grow even more. Every day felt like a battle to send some outreaches. When I finally did send some, I'd literally just reward myself for the rest of the day with just a break. I'd reward myself with a break, so I was satisfied with doing the bare minimum. Therefore, I literally made no progress towards my goal. And as the days passed by, the sinking feeling in my chest kept growing. And now I started feeling nauseous and sick, even at the thought of doing outreach. And the feeling was just 10 times worse when I thought of how I was going to miss my goal. How the big goal I'd set, I was going to fail to hit it. And at this point, I literally only had 30 days to hit 10k per month. Why am I like this? I thought to myself, why am I like this? I took this question with me into the deep of the night, pondering, reflecting, and trying to think deeply as to why am I doing this? Then it hit me. I finally understood what caused me to be paralyzed, and I instantly also got the feeling, kind of that hunch of I knew how to kill this. I knew how to defeat it once and for all. And a few weeks later, although I didn't hit my goal, I was making 4k per month. And I was a bit annoyed that I didn't hit my goal, but I'd finally made some progress. After months and months of trying to make money, I finally made some progress. And the fact that I missed my goal, to be honest, didn't really matter to me that much, because I finally discovered the true way to become indestructible. When I say indestructible, I mean that nothing other than the will of Allah will hold you back. So imagine your excuses. I don't know enough about this business to start. I'm stuck. This is the wrong time for me to get started. Oh, you know, what if I go wrong? What if this goes wrong? What if I'm not prepared enough? What if they don't accept me? What if they reject me? What if I don't close any deals? What if I don't make any money? All those excuses that you have, all those thoughts that you have, all that BS you tell to yourself. Imagine if regardless of every single limitation that you had, even if some of the excuses were true, you still achieved your goals. Let me quickly tell you something fascinating about us humans. Look at the tallest buildings in the world, and look at the tallest buildings around you, and look at the buildings around you in general. Nobody believed that those were possible to build, other than the architects and the people that actually built them. And look at the light in your room. Look at the light around you, the electricity flowing through it. One man, only one man in the world believed this was possible. In his entire country and potentially in the entire world. There was only one man who believed that was possible. Thomas Edison. And therefore he, because he knew it was possible, was the one to go and harness the power of electricity to create light for all of us to see. If we conceive an idea in our minds and we believe in that idea, then there's nothing that stops us from achieving. Everything around you, the desk, the book, the laptop, the phone, it all started as an idea in somebody's mind. And do you want to know their secret? The secret of those who are able to create these magnificent ideas into reality? It's the very secret that every single prophet knew. And the secret that gets revealed to us in the Quran, and we read past it every single time and we never notice it. The secret to unlocking everything in life, especially in my context as well, in business success. And the secret has 4 steps. Each step serves as a purpose to get you closer to your goal and to help you move forward effortlessly so that you achieve the rewards that you're looking for in life. When I was 4 years old, my mum first brought me and my brother to the UK. And she had no job, she had nowhere to live. Luckily, alhamdulillah, she had friends that were able to give her a spare room for a couple of weeks while she went and looked for a job. And at this point, she had no idea what the council was, because in the UK, basically the government, if you have no money, will take care of you, right? They'll give you some money, they'll help you find a place to live. And my mum had no idea what that was. She had no idea that even existed. So when we came in, we had no idea what any of that stuff was. So she had to go look for a job as soon as she could. And as she was going on one of her interviews and she was going from place to place in the city that we were in, she bumped into a woman in the bus station. And this woman, basically, they hit it off. They got talking, and I remember my mom telling me the story for the first time. I was like, what? They got talking, and this woman all of a sudden goes, do you know what? I've been looking, for someone to rent a room because my son is leaving me and I don't want to be alone and I've got a spare room. Do you think you'd know anyone who'd be looking to rent this room? Subhanallah al-Azim. Yani my mum was looking for all these job opportunities to try and have some money so that she can get her own place for me and my brother. And all of a sudden, this woman randomly, subhanallah, Allah placed her there to speak to my mum about her having a spare place. So of course, we moved into this woman's place. She's very clean, she was very nice, she's very lovely. May Allah bless her. I hope she's doing well today. And that, akhwan, that is tawakkul. Taking active action, right? My mum fully relied on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help her in this journey. She moved to a country, she could barely speak the language very well. She spoke English well, but she still had an accent. Her kids didn't speak any English. I was 4 years old. She didn't even have a job when she came over. She fully relied on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and she tried her best in the process. And this tawakkul, right, is what will drive you forward. And there are 3 unique mechanisms to maximize your tawakkul. So let's jump into those 3 unique mechanisms. There's a lovely story for the first mechanism. It's a hadith by Tirmidhi that talks about the birds in the morning. When they go out, they have no food. They just wake up, but they have no food. They don't know where to go. And of course, we know Allah takes care of every single animal, every single being in terms of their rizq. He gives them their sustenance. And these birds, when they wake up, they don't know where they're going to find the worm. But what do? Obviously, they fly out their nest and they go towards their food. And this, ya ikhwan, is a process we need to understand, is that for us to increase our rizq, but for most importantly, for us to actually have tawakkul on Allah, because these birds have unconscious tawakkul. They're not aware that they have tawakkul, but they do have tawakkul, right? It's for us to be active. Tawakkul is not a passive resignation of circumstances, but an active movement forward towards a better life. It's you understanding that if you want a better life, you're going to have to move towards it, and Allah will be the one that provides it for you. You just have to move forward. Do you think the birds provide their own worms in the ground? No. Allah provides those worms, but they're the ones that have to fly out of their nest to go and get the worms. So you have to be active. You have to be active if you want to increase your tawakkul, if you want to increase your rizq, if you want to have kind of this strong iman in general, you have to be active. Because the less active you are, the less chances you give yourself to actually succeed. Nothing is going to fall into your lap. You're not going to wake up one morning and realize, my goodness, I'm a millionaire. No. You know those activities you need to do? The outreach, right? The sales, setting up some things in the business, like the offer and everything like that. All those things require you to be active. They require you to take the step forward, because look, if you were never to start the outreach, you're not going to get any clients. Of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy could give you a referral randomly. He could give you a family member, right? Or a friend that has a business that wants to work with you. But unless you can go out and be active in your process of trying to make money, unless you can try and take as many sales calls as possible to improve your skills, unless you build a strong foundation for the business, nothing is going to move forward. Because the birds don't stay in their nest and have worms rain down on them. No. The birds go out and fly. They go out and fly, and maybe they fly for hours and hours and hours to find just one worm. Maybe it's rained and the worms are coming out, but all the other birds ate, and this one bird hasn't eaten yet. Allah will still take care of that bird. Because that bird, unconsciously, right, it's an animal, it doesn't know what it's doing, but unconsciously will keep looking for the worm. It will keep looking for the worm. However, us humans, when we come against these circumstances, we give up. We assume, it's not meant to be. This is just too hard. I can't continue doing this. Well, ya akhi, do you want to know the second thing in regards to tawakkul that will make you unstoppable? Is the acceptance of certain outcomes. So you have to accept your circumstances. You see, acceptance is a superpower. And the reason I say acceptance is a superpower is because when you accept something, you can finally look forward and move forward. So let me give you an example. Viktor E. Frankl, in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, talks about how him, because he was a Holocaust survivor, him and other people in the Holocaust could not look forward at all for a period of time. Think about it. These people had completely, they'd been snatched away from their family. They had all hopes taken away from them. They had nothing. And most of these people were innocent. They had done nothing wrong in the first place. But they were put in a circumstance. Now they had 2 choices. They could either, 1, live or die. They had no other choice. They could live. And when I say live, I mean every single day try and give themselves a purpose to continue living. Or they could give up and die. Give up and die because of their circumstances. Does this show tawakkul? If you would just give up, does that show tawakkul? When you have something bad happen to you in your life, if you accept it, that is one of the ultimate forms of iman. Because you accept that this is part of qadr. This is part of qadr. And I spoke to a brother after Aisha the other day. Samanda, shout out, Habibi, if you're watching this. And he was telling me about this guy he follows on Facebook. And he gave a really cool quote, which is, depression is the dissatisfaction of qadr in the past. And anxiety is the dissatisfaction of qadr in the future. How can you, in the understanding that you hold no power whatsoever, and Allah holds all the power to do anything that He wants to do, subhanAllah, how can you not accept your circumstances? How could you say, this qadr that was given to me, I'm not happy with it. I don't want this. How could you say that? Because you don't know what's written for you. You don't know the potential that you can go forward with. You don't know why this circumstance happened. You know how it affects you. You know how it feels. But you don't know why it happened. So don't try and fight it. Just accept it. Accept it and go forward and live. Because, as Viktor E. Frankl said, the man I was talking about, he says that between every single stimulus and reaction, so in this little gap here, a stimulus and a reaction, man has a choice. Man has a choice of how he reacts. Man has a choice of what he's going to do next. So every single time something happens to you, there's certain stimulus, Allahu A'lam, and I really genuinely hope for the best, the shifa for your family and good health for everybody in your life. But let's say your mum was ill. That's a circumstance, that's a stimulus. Are you going to accept it, fight it, and be in denial, right? I had a friend who, when he lost his uncle, so he lost his auntie's husband. When he lost him, he completely let go of his faith. Alhamdulillah, he wasn't Muslim, but he completely let go of his faith. Completely forgot about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Or in their case, God, they completely forgot about it. That's it. Doesn't exist anymore. He took something away from me. He took something away from me, so I'm going to fight qadr. That's weakness. That's weakness because it's allowing your human emotions to put yourself above these circumstances when it's Allah that chose them. So what are you going to do? You're going to accept it, right? But this is another form of fighting that I want you to quickly understand. Let's say your mum was ill. Another form of fighting qadr is literally allowing it to stop you from moving forward. When you use your circumstances as excuses, you are fighting those circumstances. Because do you really think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put those circumstances in your life to let you rot in bed? To let you cry all night? Is that why Allah put that in your life? It's a challenge. It's to see whether or not you are capable of moving forward. And if you're capable of moving forward with full tawakkul on Allah, everything is a test in this life. So are you going to take it as a test or are you going to take it too personally? You're going to see it as an attack against you. It's an attack for you, not against you. It's an attack for you and not against you. So here's what we do next, right? Going back to this, we face a certain stimulus. We're going to use the example of our mum falling ill, right? What's our reaction? Do we continue working on the business every single day because we accepted it? There's nothing I can do. I'm going to show more love to my mum so that Allahu A'lam, whatever happens, I'm going to make more dua. You accept it. By accepting it, you have a way of moving forward. You have a way to look in front of you, which is saying, okay, this has happened in my life. What do I want to try and make happen next? With the will of Allah, what do I want to try and make happen next? That's it. Because there's some things you are not going to be able to fight. There are some things you will never be able to fight. Ever. So you just have to you have to accept them and move forward. Move forward, okay? Move forward with your business, move forward with your health, move forward with your life in general. Because if you stay stuck, 2 people have died. The person you lost in your life in this case, and you. Because you gave up. And that's how you die in life. It's when you give up on life. It's not when you physically die necessarily, it's when you give up on life. So this is the second way of having active tawakkul, right? It's accepting your circumstance and trying to move forward with that circumstance. Because now, the final thing, and I say the final thing because probably this should have gone first, but how do you accept things? How do you, right, be active? How do you do those things? Because sometimes those things are hard, right? They're hard. Like I remember when I was going through a very tough period of my life, me and my family were basically homeless. How do I accept something like that? How do I accept that I have to watch a tiny TV and I can't do much of the work, but I need to do it at school? And I had a lot of these things going on in my life at the period as well. How do I accept these circumstances? How do I accept all these kind of, we could say, quote unquote, horrible or hard things that are going on in my life? How do I accept them? 2 words, or technically 3 words, right? Focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just focus on Allah. When I say focus on Allah, it gives you kind of a different pathway when it comes to tawakkul specifically. Because it becomes about, let me focus on relying on Allah. Let me focus on fully relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because once I can rely on Him, everything becomes unlockable for me, right? Al-Muhayni, is a very, very good name. The guardian, right? The guardian, the protector. When you focus on these names, right? I'll write it out in this way. When you focus on these names, there you go. When you focus on these names, what you give yourself is the opportunity, again, to be active and to move forward and to accept the circumstances. Because you start understanding that Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, right, the most merciful, is the one that will take care of you in every single capacity of the word taking care of. Taking care of your health, taking care of your wealth, taking care of your mindset, taking care of your mental health, taking care of your well-being. Like all of it is down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tawakkul is literally you resigning control of the outcome. So when you focus on Allah, and you forget about the outcome completely, and you just focus on the process, then you finally unlock tawakkul. Then you finally become somebody with stronger iman. Because tawakkul is a form of strong iman. Not everybody has tawakkul. Those with weak iman don't have tawakkul. Right? The hypocrites, for example, if you read a book on the hypocrites, I read one by Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyya, the hypocrites don't have tawakkul. They never accept the circumstance they are in. Right? They might outwardly show themselves as if they're happy with it and they say Alhamdulillah. But when they say Alhamdulillah, deep down they're thinking, why am I in this situation? This is a stupid situation to be in. Why did Allah give this to me? Why? They never accept it. They never accept the situation they're in. They never accept their circumstance. They never end up moving forward. So what I want you to do is focus solely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focus solely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we go back to my initial story that I was telling you about, right, with generally like this most horrible pain in my chest I could ever imagine. I literally woke up every single day. I did not want to wake up. And I don't say that in terms of like I was depressed. Like I knew, because I set myself that goal of making 10K per month in 60 days. I was like, if I fail it, I don't know how I'm going to see myself. I don't know if I'm going to accept myself. I don't know if I'm going to be happy with myself. But here's the thing. I was so focused on the outcome, I completely forgot how simple the process was. Because I wasn't focusing on Allah. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. Like, I was focusing on this. I was focusing on this. Then the second when I asked myself that question, why am I like this? Why am I like this? I realized I'm like this because I'm weak. And because I'm weak, who's the strongest? Allah. Okay, if Allah is the strongest, how can I focus on Him? Because He's the one that's going to give me some of His strength. He's the one that's going to help me propel myself forward. So what I ended up doing is forgetting about this and focusing on the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focusing on His names, Al-Mughniyu, Al-Razaq, Al-Muhayni, right? The guardian, the enricher, the sustainer. All of these words gave me power because they are the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the final piece of tawakkul is having this understanding. Once you have tawakkul, that's 1/4 of the steps that will make you indestructible and guarantee your financial success bi'idhnillah. And when I told you again in the story at the start, there was something truly sinister holding me back. It's shaitan's favorite tool. When our Prophet ﷺ was fighting battles, do you think he was like every other general, stood at the back on his horse? Or no, maybe you think he was in a tent strategizing. Or even worse, maybe he was at home relaxing while his people fought for him and fought for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. No. Rasul ﷺ was at the forefront of every single battle, sword in hand, charging. Every single one of the Sahaba were always behind him. Because this man, who we should all aspire to be like, he had defeated his biggest enemy. It wasn't Quraysh, it wasn't the non-believers, it wasn't the hypocrites, but it was shaitan. And the way he defeated him was by never ever giving in to fear. Because fear is the best tool of shaitan that will stop you from moving forward. He will stop you from moving forward in life and just keep you stuck exactly where you are, and he'll make you one of the losers, one of those that hate themselves. The story I told you earlier, if you can take one big lesson of it, is that Fedi was giving in to fear. So let's break fear down and learn how to destroy it once and for all. First, I think it'd be appropriate to give a pretty good definition of fear, right? For me, fear, the way I look at it, is fear is an emotional reaction, right? So it's primarily emotional, of the strongest degree that will stop me from moving forward. So for me, if I know something is fear, it will often be emotional. Cool, okay, this is an emotional feeling. It's strong, all right, this is really, really strong. And it stops me from moving forward. Okay, cool, it stops me from moving forward. Because sometimes you might have joy, let's say. Joy is an emotional feeling, it's very strong, but joy doesn't stop you from moving forward, does it? This is what makes fear unique. Fear literally affects your activities. It affects your body, literally your biology, right? It affects your mind and it affects your circumstance more than any other emotion. So fear is generally one of the most powerful emotions we can ever study and we can ever understand. So that's why I think fear is incredibly important for us to understand. So how do we go about defeating fear? Well, I believe that the first part, and the most important one that we have to generally start remembering now, is this idea that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Mu'adh was going to go to Yemen, he told Mu'adh to take this one thing with him. He told, yeah, Mu'adh, look, if you don't bring your sword, if you don't bring anything with you, if you don't bring the things that you needed to bring with you to go spread my message of Islam, if you don't bring anything with you, just bring this one thing. And this one thing will carry no burden for you, but it will relieve you of all burdens in life. Do you know what that thing was? So some of you watching are very, very smart, so I'm sure you would have figured it out. But it was this one thing that would stop Mu'adh from fearing anybody else. It was this one thing that would stop Mu'adh from fearing shaitan, from fearing the enemies of Islam. He'd stop fearing everybody. This thing was taqwa. But taqwa is a very complicated topic and a very complicated subject. So I'm going to make it simple for you to understand, but most importantly, simple for you to action. Because I generally believe things of faith like taqwa, tawakkul, they need to be actioned first. So taqwa is only one of the 3 tools I'll be showing you in terms of how to destroy fear. And it's the most powerful one that will have a big meta impact, so impact on everything else in your life. It will have a big meta impact on different areas of your life, right? Taqwa. 2 things in regards to taqwa. There's the other, and then obviously there's Allah, right? So let's first focus on the other. You see, by giving things power, we don't actually directly give them power over us. We tend to give them emotional power. What I mean by that is, if you were to really become obsessed with somebody, they don't actually hold any physical power over you. They hold emotional power over you that you've given them. They didn't do anything to take it. They didn't do anything to take control of it. And it's the same when we give power to other people or to the others. And when I say others, it might be fear of rejection. It might be fear of failure, right? And success. Like these different things, they're not other people necessarily, right? And I'll put fear, let's say, of your boss or fear of parents' judgment, right? Let's just put judgment. These things, for example, these aren't things. They're not people necessarily. They're concepts. And they're concepts that we define. So I remember speaking to a brother and I was like, dude, what's your definition of success? Because he was telling me how he's struggling to feel like he's got a purpose and everything. I was like, Akhi, what's your definition of success? He didn't have one. So he didn't even define the concept that he put so much emphasis in his life. I was like, okay, Habibi, well, let's give ourselves a definition of success right now. All right, let's do one. Do you know what? I'll do one with you now as well. I was like, Akhi, what would you say is successful for you? Like, would you need fulfillment in some kind? He's like, yeah, do you know what? I wouldn't see myself successful if I was a millionaire, but I wasn't close to Allah. So I was like, cool. Well, let's put fulfillment there. And I was like, Akhi, if you were incredibly close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? But you were poor, you had nothing going on in your life, would you see yourself as successful? He was like, well, I'd see myself as successful in terms of the Deen and in terms of my Iman, and probably very successful in this life and inshallah in the next. But in terms of what I can provide for people and what I can do, I don't see myself as successful as others. It's like, cool. So we can agree that fulfillment and achievement is equal to success, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, okay, so you're so scared that 1, you won't hit this, right? But 2, when you do hit it, you're going to become a different person. Well, if we use this, we look at it in Islam as like, okay, well, what makes you fulfilled? He was like, learning the Quran makes me fulfilled. And I was like, amazing. Okay, Quran makes you fulfilled. What is an achievement for you that you'd love to achieve? And he was like, cool, well, I'd like to finish my master's degree. So, okay, cool. So right now, you've set yourself 2 very unique and very strong goals for you to go and achieve so that you can be successful in the next couple years, which is 1, memorize as much Quran as you can, and 2, focus on achieving your master's degree. So now success stops being scary because you've defined the concept of success. Success stops being an enigma, it stops being a question mark, and it starts being something that you've actively defined. Which, by the way, you give power to something when it's vague. Because when it becomes vague, it becomes about your emotions towards that thing rather than the actual definition of that word, right? You see where I'm going with this? I love saying stuff like this because when it hits me as well, I love it. So when you're keeping something vague, you give it an emotional justification, or you can say it's an emotional kind of meaning rather than a meaning with words or a meaning that actually is actionable, right? So success equals to fulfillment plus achievement. And when we fear other things, when we fear rejection, when we fear success, we fear failure, we fear judgment, we fear our boss, we're putting these things above Allah. Astaghfirullah. And I don't say this to try and make you feel guilty. I try to say this to make you understand the reality of things, which is by fearing these things, you are giving them power over you. And no one should have power over you other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because your body, your mind, right, and your soul are all belonging to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, and I told you, right, fear, what does fear do? Fear affects the body, it affects the mind, it affects every part of us. So what you're doing is you're resigning these things to the others. You're resigning these things to things that aren't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, astaghfirullah al-azim. And when I say astaghfirullah al-azim, again, I'm not trying to say this in terms of like, oh, you should be saying astaghfirullah, you should be trying to feel guilty. What I'm saying is, we get so sucked into this world, we get so sucked into this idea of success, this idea of failure, this idea of all these different definitions. One, we never actually define them properly. But number two, we give them too much emotional power. So how do you relinquish their power? How do you take away their power? Well, the second way I'll show you is just focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how to do that. But the best way, in my opinion, is to realize none of these actually matter. Genuinely, none of these actually have any power over you. Like, if you're scared of a judgment, literally say that person's name. Let's say you have a friend called Ben, all right? I am scared that Ben will judge me, what I'm doing with my business, and what I'm doing on Instagram when I want to post Instagram Reels for my business. I'm scared that some random business owner called Mark is going to judge me when I outreach to him. Give them a name. Give them a name and see how silly that sounds. That sounds ridiculous. That sounds stupid, right? Like, look at it for what it actually is. Your fear of rejection. Let's break a couple of these things down. I want to make this like the most actionable class you'll ever watch. Like, I want to make this the best YouTube video you ever watch in regards to moving in faith completely, right? And removing fear. And right now we focus on fear and tawakkul, right? Taqwa being the first part. So rejection. What is the actual, like, why would we fear rejection? Well, most likely, as a kid, you felt that being rejected meant that you were unworthy of something. Maybe your parents rejected your grades. And when you got your grades rejected, you either didn't have dinner, or maybe they punished you, they didn't allow you to play games with your friends, whatever it would be. You basically got a punishment for getting a no. That's why we fear rejection. We fear rejection because when we get a no, two things happen. One, a conflict. And we're scared of conflict because we don't want to die. Generally, we think conflicts will kill us, right? And two, we're scared of rejection because we're scared of the judgment. Why are we scared of the judgment? Because we put these people as people who matter to us, and therefore their opinion of us is going to dictate our actions. Do you see how much power you've given to others? Do you see how much power you've given to success by being scared of you becoming a millionaire? What if I become a bad Muslim? Why would it ever affect your deen? How can you give something that much power that you think it will affect your deen? That's a problem with you, not success. Oh, I'm scared of failure. Why? If you held Allah in your heart, you've never truly failed. You've never truly become unsuccessful. So why are you afraid of a concept that you haven't even defined? So define these concepts. Understand them. Understand why you're scared of them. Once you understand why, they have no more power. Because they're not vague anymore. They're not emotional anymore. And for you to fear them is so stupid. These things can't even... Like, I love this parable in the Quran, right? Like, if you were to gather all the idols in the world, all the little stone tablets, all the wooden tablets, whatever it would be, like, you would gather all these idols in the world, and you'd put every single human being around them as well, and you would tell them, all right, create a moth or create a little fly. They wouldn't be able to do it. They wouldn't be able to do it. And, right, put a fly on this idol. The idol can't even shoo the fly away. These things literally have no power. If Allah wanted to, He can make that fly a frog. He can make that fly die. He can make that fly fly away into the atmosphere. He could do whatever he wanted to do. But none of these things can. None of these things hold any genuine power. The only thing they hold is emotional power. And you're the one who decides who gets emotional power. Okay? So, when we look at these things as well when it comes to taqwa, right? When we focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we've realized Allah is the high, right? The highest of the high. Nothing can be above Him. And the things that He controls are the things that we are scared of. So why would you be why would you be scared of the dog, for example? Why would you be scared of the dog? You should be scared of the owner, because the owner could just go, hey dog, come over here, stop barking at my friend, right? Or stop barking at that person. You'd go to the owner, wouldn't you? You wouldn't tell the dog, please don't bite me. Please, Mr. Dog, don't bite me. You were like, Mr. Owner, just control your bloody dog. This guy's trying to bite me. So why? These things are created by Allah, right? Like, why would you go to these things when you can just go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Like, Genuinely, there's no logical reason. It's an incredibly emotional reason for it. And by the way, I'm not going to go into like the politics side of these things, but people want you to be afraid of these things. The people above want you to be afraid of these things because they don't want you to fear Allah. Because as I told you earlier with the example of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? As you can see, my words getting twisted together now. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he always, head first, right? The person at the front would charge into battles. Why? Because he wasn't afraid of swords. He wasn't afraid of the man who would try and kill him. He wasn't afraid of the arrows that would be flying past him. He was only afraid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what anybody told him. Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam always knew I had to be afraid of Allah because that's what makes me incredibly powerful. So what's taqwa? We're going to go back to this concept of taqwa. Taqwa is not being afraid of other things. It's not giving other things power. And it's only giving Allah power. It's only giving Allah power, right? Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Mu'adh, when you go to Yemen, don't be afraid of their swords, don't be afraid of anything. The one thing you should bring with you as a tool is taqwa. And it's the one thing you should bring forward with you is consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That way when you bump into somebody, you're thinking, I'm fearing Allah, what should I do? Let me do something that pleases Allah. Okay, I'm about to be attacked, what would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You always think of this paradigm of what would please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is this wrong? Should I be doing it because I'm fearing Allah? I'm not fearing rejection. I'm not fearing success. I'm not fearing the judgment. I'm not fearing the boss. And by the way, spoiler alert, this is going to be a big one for you. Most of the time, the things you're afraid of, the things that make you uncomfortable, they're all to do with other people and they're them telling you what to fear. Them telling you what you should think and what you should not think. It's them. It's them. Oh, but Fedi, what if the business is wrong? What if I'm doing this? What if I'm doing that? Look, if the business is halal, there's nothing for you to fear whatsoever. Maybe it's your dad telling you, you can't make money this way. Maybe it's your mum telling you, you need to spend more time with me. Why are you doing like this? All those things come from other. I'm not telling you to ignore other people, by the way. I'm telling you to just understand that they should not be the ones instilling fear into you. The only one you should be fearing, the only one you should be understanding, the only one you should be thinking of is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the emotions are going to be run strongest when it comes to this. So now that we've looked at taqwa, alhamdulillah, let's understand the symptoms of fear, because fear can affect us in loads of different ways. And before we kind of look at these things like how do you get rid of procrastination, how do you get rid of how do you decrease pressure on yourself, how do you increase your ambition, and all of these things are linked to fear. So let's understand how fear uses them, right? How shaitan uses fear to affect us in these ways, because once we understand what our true problem is, once we understand what fear is and how it's holding us back, we can tackle it, right? We can kill it basically. So what are the symptoms of fear? As you can see, I made a little mistake there. So the fear of failure and success. The fear of failure and success. Fear obviously is in the word itself, right? But when you're scared of failure, you've basically held on to something. You've held on to this idea, this belonging that you have. Maybe this, it could be a certain amount of money that you have and you're scared that you'll lose that money. It could be that you're scared that you won't be good enough. You're scared that people will judge you when you fail. These fears of failure and the fear of success are basically you fearing a death of you, a death of who you think you are, right? A death of certainty. And when you're scared of these things, again, we go back to the taqwa, right? You're putting them above Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Without realizing, I'm not saying you're worshipping them, I'm not saying you're getting on your knees and worshipping them, right? So fear of failure and success. Next is anxiety. Next is no matter the ambition and preparation you put into something, there's always a feeling of risk and uncertainty. So no matter how well you've scripted out your outreach, no matter how well you've practiced your sales script, no matter how ready you are to sell, you'll always feel like there's a risk of uncertainty, and a risk itself, that's linked to fear. Perfectionism and over-planning. So with perfectionism is you fearing you won't be adequate, you fearing you won't be good enough, right? Trying to make something perfect just because you're scared. What would happen if this thing went wrong? What would happen if the thing I planned for didn't actually end up happening, right? This is you holding on to the outcome. Again, I really go back to this point, right? So procrastination and high pressure. When you procrastinate, maybe it's because of the pressure that you put on yourself. When you procrastinate, maybe it's because you're trying to make something perfect. When you procrastinate, maybe it's because of the anxiety. Procrastination is the number one symptom of fear, to stop you from moving forward, to have you stuck and bogged down into details that really don't matter. Next, it's not enjoying your work/business. Maybe you maybe you just struggle to get out of bed in the morning. Generally, you don't really enjoy your business. You don't enjoy anything you're doing in life right now. That's most likely because you're scared of something. You have a fear linking you to something, right? Then there's no motivation. You just have no motivation whatsoever. Then there's incentives don't work. When somebody gives you an incentive, dude, when you do this, you're going to get 10K per month. with me earlier in the story, right? Like even the goal of wanting to make 10K per month, I didn't care. What incentive is that? Oh, dude, you get to retire your family. Like the incentives don't work anymore. They stop mattering to you because fear has taken over. Then at the very bottom here, you might not be able to see it, but this says numb. When you feel numb to everything in life, when you stop caring about things, all of these things are symptoms of fear. So let's go a bit deeper into fear, right? Let's understand fear itself, how fear is used, how fear is developed, and what we should be maybe kind of doing to make sure that we don't have fear in our lives constantly. So I'm going to tell you a quick story of me, right? Me when I was younger, I was around 12 years old. Me and my family went to a water park, and my cousins, right? They went down this water slide, and I could hear them scream, I could hear them laugh, and they sounded so happy and excited. But me, when going down this water slide, I tell you now, Akhi, I was afraid. I was deadly afraid. I did not want to go down this water slide at all. So for me, whenever I'd hear them laugh at the end, and they were like, haha, that was so fun, right? I didn't care about the outcome. I didn't care about how fun that was. I was just scared to jump off. All the thoughts going through my mind were, what if I die, right? What if I get hurt? What if at the end it's not actually that fun and they're just exaggerating, right? And I was so embarrassed because I told the guy, you know, the guy that's like pushing you over the edge to go down a water slide, whatever. I told him, I was like, Ammi, because this is in Tunis, I was like, Ammi, so like uncle, like Ammi, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna go, right? I just walked downstairs. I walked past so many people. My face was completely red. I walked past so many people. And my cousin and my brother were on their way up to do a second try. And I was like, I don't want to do this. And they were like, oh, Fedi, you're scaredy cat. You're a scaredy cat. Go downstairs. We're going to do it again. It was so fun. I felt so ashamed of myself. Because I just froze. There's no other way to describe it. Fear makes you freeze. And this is a power of fear because you have to understand this little principle as well in science, right? In biology. Most people are like, actually, when you come across something that you're scared of, it's a fight or flight response. No. That's the case with animals that don't really have a consciousness. Do you know what our response is with humans most of the time? It was freeze. Freeze was our reaction to death. Most of the time, in the face of death, we'd freeze. We'd freeze because that was the correct thing to do, right? Maybe you don't want to aggravate an animal to continue chasing you. Maybe you'd freeze to kind of understand the situation, get a better outlook of things. Freezing was trying to help us avoid death. And fundamentally, this is what fear is for. Fear is to warn you of something so that you don't go ahead and do it. So you avoid death, basically. So when you freeze, you have to understand everything I described to you over here in terms of the symptoms. All of these things are made you, right? They're made for you to freeze, to not move forward. Because when you stay in place, right? When you stay in place, that is true death. What do I mean by that? Well, if you understand again biology, right? Death can be described by something that stops growing. How do you know if something is alive? Well, if you think of a plant, how do you know if something is alive, right? When you give it enough nutrients and you give it sunlight, the plant grows. That's how you know it's a living being, because it grows. It goes from A to Z, from a baby to an adult, right? Baby, teenager, adult. From a plant, it goes from like a tiny seed, then it goes into a sprout, and then it continues growing. So with everything that is living, life itself is growth. And therefore, death itself is freezing. It's when you don't grow. So anti-growth is death. And who's our enemy in life? Shaitan, right? Aduwwun lakum. He's your enemy. So for us, we have to understand that Shaitan's tool is to stop us from growing, stop us from moving forward. And he does this by using fear, by making us freeze in place. Because look at this water slide example, right? What could have actually happened to Fedi if he jumped down? What is the worst case scenario, right? Worst case scenario. Potentially he'd die, generally. Potentially, I don't know, Allahu Alam what happens in the water slide, but I'd die. But that is incredibly unlikely because they've done all the safety stuff, they've figured everything out. Plus, I'm in water, it's not gonna be that dangerous, right? But the thing that I was scared about was outcomes I could never actually say or I could never define. So this leads me to another point when it comes to freezing. The reason we froze was to identify. It was to identify the thing that might kill us. Because once we identify the thing that is going to hold us back, the thing that is going to kill us, the thing that is going to threaten our livelihood, once we identify it, we start to understand it. But once we never understand it, we stay frozen. Do you see where I'm going with this? I hope you do, because I know you're smart. So basically what I'm telling you is that you freeze because you don't understand the thing you are facing. And when I say you don't understand it, it's not about understanding every intricate detail, but you don't understand how it affects you. You don't understand how to beat it. This is why a good way to move forward is just to take action blindly. Because blind action allows you to figure things out as you go, right? Like something I used to say to one of my students, or Fadlik Anas if you're watching this. What I used to say to him was that basically what you want to focus on is just continuously moving forward. Because although you can't see anything, right? Allah can see everything. So Allah knows what's going to happen. Allah knows what's in the path. Allah knows what's in front of you, what's behind you. And therefore, you have to rely on the best of planners, okay? Because your plan is never going to fully work. So you don't have to kind of overanalyze everything. And like, again, that's why you overanalyze and you try and be a perfectionist. It's because you're trying to understand everything that can happen. But you can never truly understand everything that can happen, right? You never can. So this is the framework I use, right? You are on a current step right here. And your goal is, let's say, 4 steps away, right? So it takes 5 steps to get to your goal in total. Most of this is shrouded in absolute darkness. You have no idea what's going on. And instead of staying frozen in place here, trying to figure out what's all the way over there, the best thing you can do is just move. Move and discover it. You see, you have to be brave in the face of death. Because we go back to taqwa in the sense that this is nothing you should be afraid of. Death is not something you should be afraid of. And I don't say death because you're actually going to die. Entrepreneurship is probably not going to kill you, right? But what's death for you? This is where it's going to get a bit deep, right? Death of who you think you are. Death of your current identity. Death of who you believe things to be true. What you believe to be true. It's the death of who and what. That's what we're scared of, really. Because as entrepreneurs, we're not afraid of dying. Our reactions of fear aren't linked to death. They're linked to fears we've been conditioned to have, which is the last part of this, inshallah, that I'll talk about. But we're scared of who we're going to become, what we're going to face. Because we're scared in that process, we're going to become completely different people. The things that we thought were true, the things that we assumed to be true about ourselves are going to completely change. Of course, that's a scary fact to deal with. In the face of death, humans freeze. This is our reaction to fear. So understand that when you freeze, it's because you are scared. And how do you defeat this kind of freezing completely? Well, again, taqwa, in my opinion, is the best solution, which is why I said it first, because this kind of frames your entire mind for the rest of this, right? But it's also to just move forward. Move forward, even not understanding everything that's going to happen, because once you're in this step right here, this becomes lighter. And now you can start seeing slightly more of what's on the next step potentially. And then again, it happens again once you move to the next step. It's like, oh, now I see. Oh, now I'm on step 3. Now I know a bit what happens. And then step 4 and step 5 become clearer and clearer. So what you have to understand is that you will freeze. You will freeze. This is how you actually die, by the way. Like, I know this is getting a bit like all over the place and a bit deep, but let's reiterate the main points, right? You freeze in reaction to death, right? That's where fear comes from. Fear causes you to freeze. What's actual death? We know that death is when we stop growing. Therefore, the actual thing that's going to kill you is fear. So fear is a double-edged sword. It's a sword that might help you survive in grave danger, but it's also a sword that kills you. It kills you. It doesn't just protect you, it kills you. Because when you become afraid of things, you freeze. And when you freeze, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, by the definition of what being alive is, you die. You just die. You're gone. You become a shell of a person. Growth is fundamentally how we're going to have purpose in life. If you've ever been confused about what purpose should I strive for, what purpose should I give myself, just strive to grow. Strive to improve every single day. Because as humans, that's what life is about. Our growth in our iman, our growth in our finances, our growth in our relationships with our family members, our growth in our relationship with Allah, our growth with our relationship with the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our growth in all these different aspects of life. When you continue growing, there's not going to be a single day where you feel meaningless, right? Because again, what are the symptoms of fear, right? If we're going to freeze, like if I flip the camera back, like if we're going to freeze, what are our symptoms again? Anxiety. Anxiety is what? Anxiety is us being dissatisfied, right? Or kind of dissatisfied with future qadr, future things that can happen. We're dissatisfied with it. Why? Because we're afraid it might happen. Anxiety is fundamentally fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown, right? What keeps you up at night? Anxiety. You're scared of things that you don't actually know are going to happen. Like fundamentally, you don't actually know if they're going to happen. No matter how much you prepare for them, you don't know if it's going to happen. There's still risk and uncertainty. It's because you're afraid. It's because you're afraid. You're not realizing that by making you freeze, right? Fear is killing you. By making you freeze, fear is killing you. It's not saving your life, it's killing you. So I want to give you a final analogy when it comes to fear, right? And this is the analogy I love to use with my early coaching clients, which was the analogy of the bear. So let me explain it. I can't draw for the life of me, so just assume this is a bear. There you go. He's got some claws. Bam, that's a bear, right? Claws down there, claws down there. Imagine there's two people. They're friends. They're loving life, right? And they've never seen a bear in their life. So when they go up to the bear, right? Person number two goes up to the bear. He's like, "What a little cutie! Woo, I love this little bear!" Woo. And the bear just goes, "Rrr," and then just slashes him in half. So now number two is dead, right? Number two is dead. He's gone. That's it. The bear's killed him. Number one freaks out and he's like, "Oh my goodness. I just saw my best friend die. And then he runs away, right? So now in the future, right? In the future, let's say, when person number one sees a bear, no matter how far away, when he sees a bear, okay, let's just put the bear all the way over here, so far away. When he sees a bear, he's going to run away. He's going to be scared. Because he saw, right, and we spoke earlier about how fear is protecting us from death. He saw that a bear would kill him. So now, no matter what happens, he's never going to approach this bear because he's afraid of what the bear will do to him. Even though there are so many unknown factors, such as the fact that number two was going to the bear, right, which could have annoyed the bear. It could be that the bear was hungry. There could have been loads of different reasons why the bear killed person number two. But person number one doesn't care to understand the details. He just knows that this is potentially life-threatening, which is where conditioning comes from. If we understand a bit of psychology, Pavlov's dog, right? So Pavlov was a scientist and he was basically training this dog to salivate or to be hungry on demand. So this kind of showed that there's biological reactions to conditioning and other stuff like that, which is where trauma can come from as well. But the point is that he was able to condition the dog so that every time he rung a bell, the dog would salivate. He'd be ready for food, no matter what, right? No matter what. So even if the guy didn't bring the food out, the dog was so used to getting food after the bell rung that he would salivate. So it started being about a reward. Okay, so there's a couple of ways to look at this, but we'll go back with just conditioning. You basically condition yourself based on what your parents tell you to fear. You learn to fear it. Most fears are learned. Do you know what fears we're born with, by the way? I'm pretty sure we're born with the fear of loud noises and the fear of heights. I believe those are the only two fears we're generally born with in our DNA. These are like things encoded in our DNA, so we can't necessarily change them, okay? But what other fears do you develop as a kid? Well, let's say you saw a little spider. And you're like, Mama, look, a spider. And then your mom's like, ah! And then she freaks out. And then you start screaming because you're like, oh, I didn't realize I should be afraid of the spider. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a fear of spiders. This is going to get real quick, right? Let's say you saw, as a kid, a little tank toy that you wanted. And you really wanted this tank toy. All right? And you walk past the shop and you would show to your mum, I really want this tank toy, Mama. I hope you can buy it for me. And your mum says, no, right? We don't have the money. We have no money. And then maybe she tells you why this is such a bad thing. But you as a kid understand, well, I have no money, therefore I can't buy the toys. I can't get things that make me happy and that make me laugh. Let's take this even further. Let's say your dad was a business owner and he suddenly had $0. And every single day after his business failed, you see your dad be depressed, unhappy, and you see him struggle to go through life. And you can see it, you can feel it. You've now learnt to be afraid of having $0 because of the effect that you saw it had on people. It made you sad to not get the toy. Well, now money becomes a big deal in your life as a kid. You don't realize this, but you've learned to fear these certain situations. You've learned to fear them. This one's from me, this one's from me, This one, I was never really particularly afraid of spiders, right? Cockroaches a little bit because my mom would scream every time she saw a cockroach in Tunis. But the point is, these two fears that I developed very quickly, very, very quickly as a kid, they still held me back for a very long time. Because I learned to be afraid of money. I learned to be afraid of not having money. I learned to be afraid of poverty. Poverty in itself is nothing terrible necessarily. It holds you back in terms of opportunity, but as long as you don't let it hold you back, it's nothing that can detriment you. There are, like, most millionaires are self-made, by the way. Generally, most millionaires are self-made. I think it's a crazy number of like 85% of the US self-made. In the world, it's even bigger. But the point is that you learn certain fears. They're not true. They're not true. So if we look at this, right? You have a certain stimulus. I'm going to draw eyes to show you something that you saw, right? You saw something. This thing created an emotion, right? I'm going to draw a heart to show emotion. Then that emotion imprinted your mind, so it coded you, right? There you go, let's do some coding for all those computer science nerds. Okay, it encoded you to basically understand that if I see this, I feel this. Straight away, like there's no analysis anymore. The emotion was the analysis. Fear was the analysis. I am scared of not able to buy my son toys. That is a genuine fear I have. I am scared that one day I'll tell my kids I can't afford it. So therefore, I'm actively working towards being able to not say that to my kids. Because that's something I'm afraid of. Very easy. I'm being transparent with you, right? Because I hope you understand this. I've been at £0 in my bank account. I've had £0 in my bank account before. And when I had this fear, I specifically remembered and reminded myself, Fedi, do not let the emotion overpower you. So now, whenever I'm getting close to zero, right, there's nothing. So I don't freeze. I don't freeze anymore. Like, you learn to freeze. You don't actually fundamentally freeze because of everything. You learn to freeze. Maybe in school, you tried really hard and you raised your arm up, right? You raised your arm up to answer a question. You got the question wrong. Everybody laughed at you. All of a sudden, that emotion of shame, that emotion of fear, you've imprinted yourself so that you never raise your hand up anymore. You never risk getting things wrong, which is where most likely your perfectionism comes from, right? Your perfectionism comes from the fact that you are afraid of failure. Why are you afraid of failure? Because you got judged for it. You learned to be afraid of that. You were never born with that fear. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We were born in the best way possible. We were not born with these fears. So don't let them hold you back. If you want to become unstoppable, you have to understand, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? Is this fear something I was born with? No, because the only fear you were born with was the loud noises and the heights. Everything else you are afraid of, you don't even know that it will happen. You don't know that it will happen. بِقَدْرِ اللَّهِ. I remember we went to the first part about acceptance of circumstances and only looking to move forward. Why do you think I said that first? This is starting to put the pieces together in the puzzle. So now we've attacked fear. Now we've gotten rid of fear and understood fear. How do we continue, killing fear completely? How do we continue actioning this and going forward with this? Inshallah, let's move on to the next part to talk about that. When I was 16 years old, I was playing ping pong with my brother. I was going through a tough time at school. Also, our situation in the family wasn't great in general. But I was taking my studies more seriously, alhamdulillah. I was taking the gym more seriously. So a lot of the things in my life, I started to kind of get momentum. But therefore, it also meant I found myself lonely because I lost a lot of friends in the process of trying to improve myself. Why do you have to be so cocky, Fedi? My brother asked me very aggressively. It really annoys me, he told me. I was kind of shocked because we were playing ping pong and I didn't expect this to happen so quickly. And I missed the ball. I was hit my way. So I was supposed to give a good return, as they call it in ping pong, but I completely missed it. And I asked him, what do you mean cocky? And I looked at him this way. I was like, what do you mean cocky? Stocksedweel. Right? What do you mean cocky? And my brother was telling me in his harsh tone that I always acted as if I was better than everybody. And I was always thinking I was better than everybody and always tried to be better than everybody. And I got really angry. Like, my face was turning red and I just wanted to smack him with my ping pong racket and just shout at him. And before you get, angry at me and you judge me, me and my brother clashed a lot at this point. Alhamdulillah, our relationship is amazing right now. It's beautiful. I love my brother very, very much. But we were clashing a lot in this period of my life. So currently the score was 8-4 in ping pong and I was winning. And I was telling Kith, I was telling my brother, that's the nickname I have for him. I was saying, look, just focus. Just focus on winning the game. And I'm not cocky. Okay, I don't act as if I'm better than everybody in public. I don't. It's only in private that you and mama might see this. But I'm finally taking my studies more seriously. I'm finally getting bigger at the gym. Why can't you just be happy for me? I don't think I'm better than anybody. I'm trying to be better than everybody. And there's two things to take away from this. Number one, don't speak to your siblings like I did, no matter how much they make you angry. And number two,
I'd actually started becoming more confident. I started doing better in my studies at the gym and everything after I started becoming more confident. And it's a principle I had never heard of at this point. And it's the same principle that David Goggins, Alex Hormozy, and even people like Mufti Menk use to become incredibly successful. And this is why those people seem so happy, they seem so driven, they seem so disciplined. And this is how you make your work effortless. And you remove the struggle from working in your business and working in your life in general. There's a few things you can do to make things effortless. And remember, we said that a lot of friction comes from fear when things are unknown. So a big thing is to understand that which path would you be more willing to take? Is it the path that's clearly, a well-set road and many people have walked on it before and you can tell it's walked on, there's even signposts directing you to different locations, right? The well-walked path and signposts telling you to go this way and that way and all that good stuff, right? There's no way you're going to get lost on this path. Or are you going to take the path that's just trees and wilderness and you can barely see the path among the bushes and the trees and everything? Which path are you more likely to take? If you say the second one, oh, well, I like the adventures. Shut up, I'm talking about most naturally, right? Obviously, you're most likely to take the first one because it gives you certainty. You know what to expect. You know what's going to happen at the end of the road because they give you directions. You know how you're going to walk on the road because people have done it before. Whereas the second one, it's vague. It keeps you lost. And to be honest with you, you're never certain on what you're going to see along the way. This is a fear of the unknown, right? When there's something unknown to you and you're uncertain of it. But this is a principle we can understand in psychology. I call it the big D, right? Not to be weird, right? Don't get your head out the gutter just in case you thought that. The big D. And the big D is a fundamental step in confidence. You see, you can define confidence in loads of different ways. And one of the main definitions for confidence that gives you kind of this idea of feeling like you can take on the world is having a sense of direction. You see, direction can come in many different forms. Most importantly, in my opinion, direction is understanding the way you are going to go and the destination you are aiming for. Napoleon Hill, in Think and Grow Rich and The Laws of Success and a bunch of other books I won't mention because I've read like all of his books, he talks about having a definite purpose, a definite desire. Now, what does definite mean? Definite means it's yes or no. It's exactly that. It's nothing in between and it's nothing else. So when you make something definite, where you give yourself a sense of direction, you almost unlock an instant form of confidence because all of a sudden things start fitting into place. You start having things that can align with each other. Like if I told you, I'm hungry. Okay, I'm hungry. And you ask me, where do you want to eat, Fedi? If I told you, I don't know, just somewhere nice, you're thinking to yourself, my goodness, who is this guy? Somewhere nice. Fedi, there's like 20 nice restaurants in the area. What sort of food do you want to eat? You see, I start asking me more questions. Like, do you know what? I could do with some steak right now. Some steak? Okay, very, very nice. Well, Fedi, there's actually 3 steakhouses we can go to. Have you been to either one of these? No, I've never been to any of them. Okay, well, Fedi, what sort of steak do you like? And I was to go, I just like steak. And then I was to go, actually, I changed my mind. I can kind of go for Italian food. You'll probably think to yourself, my goodness, this guy's so annoying to do things with because he changes his mind and nothing seems to be definite and everything seems to go in loads of different directions, right? Like I never tell you directly, right? So this is a part of a principle that you have to understand fundamentally, which is having things be definite, having things be certain. And it doesn't have to be certain in the fact that it's going to happen. It has to be certain in the fact that you know where you're going. You have to know where you're going, Akhi. Napoleon Hill makes this the number one fundamental principle that everybody needs to have, which is a definite purpose, like a certainty of where do I want to go? What is it that my goal is? I'm going to give you a couple examples of goals that I used to have that I failed to hit, and I'll give you one of the examples of the one I did hit, and I want us to figure out together, why do you think I hit that goal, and why do you think I didn't hit the other ones? So when I first started my entrepreneurship journey, I kind of had the same goal as everybody else, which was to make 10K per month, okay? Everybody that like in the same course that I had, which was an Iman Gaji course, everybody wanted to make the same goal as me, which is 10K per month. They obviously all wanted to retire, their parents maybe. They had all these other goals of like buying Lamborghinis and moving to Dubai, whatever it would be specifically. Now, this was my first ever goal that I set. I set this goal. I want to make 50K in total at the end of the year, right? So let's just put per year. I wanted to make 50K by the end of the year. For me, this goal was fairly definite in the sense that I knew when I wanted it and how much I wanted. So I knew what I wanted, and then I knew when I wanted it by. Do you think I hit this goal? No. But why? Why didn't I hit the goal? Well, there's a couple other things that are missing. There's a couple other things missing in this goal, which is how do I want to achieve the goal? Why do I want to achieve the goal? And who am I going to help, or who am I going to basically who am I going to service? Who am I going to help, or who am I doing this goal for? Who's going to benefit from it? Okay. So what, when, we can tick off. Perfect. We got it. Now let's look at another goal. Okay. Let's keep this one as the first example. The other goal I had, and another point, was to sign 3 clients. Okay. By next month. So I gave myself 1 month to sign 3 clients. Okay. And I wanted the clients for 3 reasons, right? 3 reasons I wanted these 3 clients was to quit my 9 to 5, right? To quit my 9 to 5. So I wanted 3 clients to quit my 9 to 5. So now we've got more specific things. We've got the what, we've got the when, and all of a sudden we got the why. A lot more definite. Did I get this goal? No, but I did get 1 client, which is really good news. And that's because the goal I was setting made me more confident. Right? So that's why I made progress. I didn't make progress towards this goal, by the way. I didn't even make a single dollar, but I made progress towards this goal. Let's continue. The next goal I had, this is the 3rd goal before the one that really worked out. And again, I'm going to let you ask yourself, why did this work out? Why did this not work out? Maybe your goals are similar to this and you want to consider that. The next goal I had was I wanted to sign 4 clients, right? By, I think it was May. If I believe correctly, yeah. So it's 4 clients by May. I think this was in time January or February. I wanted to sign 4 clients by May, and I had 2 reasons. One, again, was to quit my 9 to 5. So to quit my 9 to 5. And also, I decided how I'm going to do it, which is with my agency. You might be thinking, well, Fedi, why do you have to specify this? Because when you start getting shiny object syndrome, when you start thinking, maybe I should do video editing, maybe I should do SaaS, maybe I should do coaching, maybe I should, you lose confidence because it stops being certain. It starts being questionable. Okay. So now I've got 4 clients by May and I want to quit my 9 to 5, right? With my agency. So now I got how. Okay. I got how, but I still didn't have who. This is the most successful goal I've hit, alhamdulillah, and this is the best goal I've hit, which was to make 10K per month with a new business in 1 month. Okay, so we set the goal in 1 month. This is what we did. How? With coaching. Right? Why? To retire my mum, because I did the calculations, and if I could do this in 1 month, I could help her very, very much so. And then the last part of this goal was the who that we figured out very quickly, me and my business partner, Muhammad. Who did we want to help? Who did we want to do it for? For Muslim entrepreneurs. Right, I'm going to put Muslims in brackets, the Ummah. That's why we were doing it. Now, we had a who that we were doing it for. Alhamdulillah, we hit this goal very, very quickly. It was in less than a month. And everything from there has been flowing a lot easier because every time we set a goal, we tell ourselves, how are we going to do it? Why are we doing this goal? Who are we going to help doing the goal? What are we going to achieve in that goal? And when are we going to achieve it by? That's how you set goals. And the point of setting goals, by the way, is not to just, you can't manifest a goal into existence. Allah is the one that's going to decide whether or not you actually achieve this goal. But the most important thing about setting this goal is to give you direction, to give you a sense of direction in this life, to give you a sense of direction with everything that you need to do. That way you can look at it and be like, does this action align with my goal? Okay, does watching YouTube until 2 a.m. align with my goal of making 10K per month? No, it doesn't. Therefore, am I going to continue doing it? No, preferably you stop doing it, right? Why am I doing this? I'm doing this to, let's say, retire my mum. So if you go about shouting at your mum every single day and you always argue with your mum, then are you really trying to retire your mum? Like, you're giving her more headaches than if you would just give her $5,000. Like, you're giving her way more headaches. Just shut up. Like, the $5,000 isn't going to help her if your relationship with her is terrible. Okay. So when you set a goal, it's only for the purpose of having a direction. Okay. Because the point of the direction is to give you a definite desire. Because from this definite desire, you can start figuring out, how do I go about achieving it? Then it starts making more sense. But when it's definite, it leaves no questions. Questions? None. No questions. You know what you're going for. You know what you're trying to achieve. And that gives you power. That gives you power. And this leads to the other thing, right, in terms of confidence. Because when we look at the definition of confidence, right, the word confidence is derived from the word to confide in oneself. So to confide is to trust, and obviously oneself is you. So it's to trust yourself. So if you ever feel unconfident, the reason you don't feel confident is because you don't trust yourself. How do you break someone's trust? I'll give you like literally 2 seconds or so. How usually, like if you were to think, when would I stop trusting someone? When would you stop trusting someone? I assume probably when they lie to you, right? When they say they're going to do something and then they end up not doing it. Well, that's exactly how you lose trust in yourself. You said you were going to wake up at 6 a.m. So why did you wake up at 10 a.m.? You lied to yourself. Do you know why you lied to yourself? Because you don't respect yourself. If you had a boss that told you, yo, bro, you need to wake up at 6 a.m. or you're fired, right? Or not just you're fired. He doesn't even give you like anything wrong, right? He just says you have to wake up at 6 a.m. You're going to wake up at 6 a.m. because you respect another man more than you respect yourself. You respect an authority more than you respect yourself. Let that sink in for a second. I'm being genuine, by the way. If you are not able to stick to your word, it's because you don't respect yourself. Why do you not respect yourself? Because you've lied. Everybody has lied. Everybody has lied. So that's normal. Everybody's lied. But most importantly, you've lied to yourself. You know every single lie that you've said. You know when you say you're going to do 10 pieces of outreach today and you do 0, you know you've lied. Nobody else knows you haven't done 10 pieces of outreach. Nobody in the world knows other than you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody else knows. So why do you think you don't trust yourself? Why do you think you don't feel confident? It's because you keep lying to yourself. If you genuinely want to be confident, be honest. First with yourself. First with yourself. And to like avoid this thing right here, like to avoid this completely, just start small. Like start with baby steps. Be like, cool, I'm going to do 1 outreach today. Tomorrow I'm going to do 2. The day after I'm going to do 3, etc., etc. So you keep building up. You keep building up the steps, right? If you're used to waking up at 10 a.m., be like, cool, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 9:30 a.m. The next day I'm going to wake up at 9 a.m. Then I'm going to wake up at 9 a.m. for a whole week, right? Then I'm going to wake up at 8:30 a.m., etc., etc. Prove to yourself that you are someone who can stick to their words. Prove to yourself that you are someone worthy of trusting. Because you will never be confident unless you can trust yourself. Never. On a sales call, I had 0 clients. The guy tells me, Fedi, why should I trust you? I'll be honest with you, you have 0 clients. You've never done this before. You've never done marketing before. You've been in the business for 6 months. Why should I trust you? I put my hands up. I'll call him R, right? R. I was like, R, there's no reason for you to trust me. You're right. I've never done this before. I haven't got any clients. You're 100% right. But I promise you now, I am willing to stay up until 2 a.m. to make sure that this campaign that we're going to be running for you works. I might not be able to give you a track record of proof, but I promise you now, I will do everything to make this work. Because you don't understand how much I have riding on this. I was completely honest and transparent with the guy. That was my first ever client. When you are honest with yourself, when you trust yourself, okay, you become confident. Confidence does not come from external, it's an internal. Look at the root meaning, to confide, to trust, to confide, right? To be able to fully trust something. Fully, like confide is like being able to fully trust something. No matter what, it's the person you go to. Hence, yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you will never be confident. There's no hack to be confident. There's no shoulders back, right? Go to the gym, get confident. Like, if you don't trust yourself, you will never be confident. And it's that simple. It's honestly that simple. Look at the root meaning of the word itself. Why do we use the word? Because of what it means. So if you have a direction that is definite and you trust yourself to go out and achieve it, you have one piece of the puzzle missing to make sure that you can become incredibly confident in yourself. Incredibly confident. I dropped my pen, so I need to quickly pick up. The last thing to achieve your goals effortlessly and to become incredibly confident in yourself, to have self-confidence, as Napoleon Hill calls it, self-confidence is the tool of a titan, right? Titans are self-confident. They confide in themselves. They trust themselves. They know they're going to do well, okay? What was the last thing, Fedi? You're probably thinking, what could be the last thing? What could be the last thing? Well, this is something that David Goggins loves. That's one clue. This is something that everybody can build. It's a skill. Nobody can lack this skill. It's a buildable skill. And there's actually a part of the brain that I want to talk to you about, okay? So if we were to draw the brain like a circle, okay? And this part of the brain is somewhere around here. And let's say this part of the brain here, right here, is the prefrontal cortex, okay? So this is the brain part, okay, that is kind of responsible for planning. It's responsible for analysis. It's responsible for consciousness in a lot of ways. Basically, your prefrontal cortex, it has this little part right here, which is called the mid-cingulate prefrontal cortex, which we're going to put mid-C. And this part of the brain grows every time you do something you hate to do. What does it mean when it grows? Because I could tell you it grows, but that means nothing to you, right? Well, if a part of the brain grows, it means one, it's easier to use, so the brain is more likely to use it again. And number two, it means it takes up more energy, and therefore it becomes easier, right? So not only is it easier for the brain to use, but it becomes easier for you to basically do the behavior, right? So not only does it become easier for the brain to use and to take blood to that area, but the blood that goes to that area is more likely to become a behavior. Okay. When you have this area grow, which means it's easier to use, it becomes easier over a long period of time, you also increase your will to live, right? This is where the will to live is housed. And lastly, and most importantly, when you do something hard, the reward itself is not just dopamine, right? Which, by the way, is a molecule to help you pursue things, but it also releases serotonin and other beneficial hormones. It basically makes you happier. And it doesn't make you happy in the sense of like smiling, yay, I'm happy. It makes you happier in the sense of increasing your will to live, increasing your will to continue living. Okay, and I say that twice in different ways because there's the willpower, right? This is the willpower itself. There's the will to continue living, to continue every day waking up excited to live. It only grows, this part of the brain, when you do hard things, right? And specifically, it's not necessarily hard things, it's things you don't want to do. Sound familiar, huh? This part of the brain is called the discipline muscle. This part of the brain only grows with discipline. It only grows with discipline. This part of the brain is smaller in obese people, people who don't exercise, and poor people. And this part of the brain is huge, right? Literally huge in athletes. It's huge in people who are incredibly wealthy. They have earned it themselves usually. And it's also very big in like factory workers and people like that, okay? So I know I said poor people at the start, but like it's factory workers, people who have to work incredibly hard and be disciplined every single day. This part of the brain is your superpower. And I'm going to tell you why. Because look, understand this. For people, discipline is scary. But Fedi, I don't want to do it. But the exact reason why you should be doing it is because you don't want to do it. Remember earlier we said about having a definite goal. So let's say you have the definite goal of making 10K per month. Okay. We're going to say in 6 months. And we're going to say you want to work with dentists. You want to offer them marketing. Okay. And the reason you're doing it is to give yourself freedom. So you want to have freedom because you're currently working 9 to 5, you can't pray on time and you hate it. Here's what you understand. The actions that lead you there are actions that will make you uncomfortable. Because if they were actions that were comfortable for you to do, you would already have that goal. Do you understand that? Like, you have to die to achieve your goals. Your old self has to die for you to achieve your goals. You are going to be uncomfortable. You are not going to be in a situation you want to be in. And this is what makes it crucial to have discipline. Is because one day you are going to wake up and think, why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. I hate this. Why am I scared? I'm feeling scared. And when you move regardless, this part of the brain grows. And therefore you become more disciplined. And once you become more disciplined, you continue moving up these steps, right? You're consistently moving up the steps. And what does the business ask of you, by the way? The business literally asks of you to do the right things consistently. It doesn't ask any more things. It doesn't ask you to wake up at 6 a.m. or doesn't ask you to do any of that. It just asks you to, hey, could you please do outreach every single day for the rest of the year so that we can sign clients? That's all the business asks of you. And as this part of the brain gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, then what ends up happening is your will to live increases, your discipline itself increases, the actions that you take, although you still don't like them, become easier to do, and therefore you reward yourself continuously. Life becomes a game. Because games and things that are meaningful aren't supposed to be easy. They're not supposed to be easy. They're supposed to be hard to achieve. But once you become the person you identify, right, you see yourself, that's how we identify, we see ourselves amongst situations. Once you see yourself as the person who does things they hate for a bigger reason, they do things they hate because it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you really think I enjoy fasting on Mondays and Thursdays? Generally, on Mondays and Thursdays when I fast, do you think I enjoy doing that? No, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm generally, I hate to admit that I don't enjoy it. I don't. I'm hungry. I like eating food. But I know not only does it increase my iman, okay, well, obviously that's the most important thing, but it also increases my discipline muscle. And therefore, being disciplined becomes easier. You understand, discipline is a connected rod. Okay, discipline is connected. Meaning if you're disciplined in your life, in terms of your health, let's say you're at level 3 in your health, but then in your business, you're at level 1, and then in your Deen, you're at level 5, then your life is capped at level 1. Because your discipline is never going to increase higher than level 1. Because it's stuck here. You have to increase your discipline in this. But this is the cool thing about this. The more you become disciplined in your iman because you find it easier, let's say you get it to level 6, and then you get this to level 3, it stays there, and this stays at level 1, this becomes easier to level up, and so does this one. When you become disciplined, it's like an effect that happens like a chain reaction, right? Everything within that chain ends up hitting each other, right? Like little particles in science, you might even recognize this drawing. They end up hitting each other and creating a chain reaction towards you becoming more disciplined, towards you becoming kind of more powerful, increasing your will to live. So I say this connected kind of framework for you to realize that if you are struggling to be disciplined in business, first, don't look at why am I struggling to be disciplined in business. Look at how disciplined am I in my iman, my faith, my deen? How disciplined am I in my health? How disciplined am I in my studies? How disciplined am I in like in all the different areas of life? How disciplined am I? Because I spoke to a brother. He's like, Fedi, I'm really struggling to be disciplined in business. I was like, Echi, do you wake up for Fajr? And he was like, no. I was like, wake up for Fajr for 2 weeks and tell me if the work becomes harder or easier to do. So he woke up for Fajr for 2 weeks and he did his first bits of outreach. And I was like, well done. How much easier was it to do the outreach now? He's like, I don't know why, it was just so much easier. I was like, cool, well, Echi, what's the next thing? Like, do you work out? He's like, no. I was like, okay, well, start doing push-ups at home. So he started doing push-ups at home. I was like, how's the outreach now? He was like, easier. And I was like, how's waking up for Fajr? He was like, easier. I was like, okay, cool. Well, keep going with this. What's the next thing you want to improve? And he kept telling me things he wanted to improve. And we slowly started introducing them into his life, right? Back and back and back and back. And when he stopped working out, he suddenly found waking up for Fajr harder. He suddenly found doing the work harder. Like, discipline is connected. So you want to start with loads of different areas with your life and start increasing them slowly, and you'll find everything becomes easier. That's the beauty of discipline. And the reason I give you this example is because I want you to understand that discipline is necessary. If you really thought I was going to give you some manifestation tactic where you can whoosh, bring 10K a month into your life, I wish I could. But I don't think, one, that's possible. Two, it requires you to take action regardless. And sometimes your emotions aren't going to be aligned with your goals. And that's okay, because it's hard to get your emotions aligned with everything. It's hard. By the way, that's the whole point of like the whole like feel positive, etc. It's literally just to align your emotions, right? And your thoughts with your actions. But you know what discipline does? Discipline goes, sod these things so they can go away. Let me focus on this. Which is incredibly powerful. Incredibly powerful, because no matter what you think, no matter what you feel, you do it. The whole point of manifestation, by the way, is literally just to have your emotions and your thoughts aligned with the actions you want to take. So therefore, the actions become easier. But this takes time. And I don't just say this takes time. If you want your emotions and thoughts to align, they will align once you do the action itself. I've spoken about this before. I've spoken about it from both angles. But I'm telling you now, like, discipline is how you kill fear completely. You want to move in faith? You want to move in faith? You want to have strong tawakkul? Be disciplined. Be disciplined. And again, this isn't a whole deep dive video on discipline, but I think you know how to be disciplined. Do the work you're avoiding to do. Because once you start doing the work you've been avoiding to do, you will start finding life in general easier. Genuinely. Set some foundations for yourself. What do you want to maintain as like a minimum standard for your life? Like, do you want to work out 3 times a week, every day every week for the rest of your life? Yeah? Okay, cool, we'll set that. Do you want to wake up for Fajr every day for the rest of your life? Yeah, cool, we'll set that. Do you want to eat healthy for the rest of your life? Well, cool, just reset that. Reset these foundations. Because you understand now, for you to kind of get rid of action, right? To continue action, get rid of fear on the next step. So we had tawakkul, okay? And once we had tawakkul, we understood, cool, well, we need to start killing fear and understanding fear. Now we know that regardless of what we feel, we can have discipline if we have direction, if we trust ourselves, okay? And now, finally, right, we need to understand the process, okay? The process and how we can how does this happen over a long enough period of time? What do we do in a year's time, right? Do we just continue doing the exact same thing? Well, spoiler alert, you kind of do, okay? So, should we kind of take a look I didn't really want to share this in the video, but should we take a look at kind of my videos and how long it took me to get attention on YouTube? Because I started this channel 1.5 years ago. I had big goals. I wanted to change people's lives. I had big goals financially for the business as well. But for so long, I got 0 views, 10 views, 100. Like when I got 100 views, I was like, Ya Rab, you have blessed me with so much of this. I am so happy, right? And I kept thinking during that period, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe nobody wants to watch me anyway. Maybe I have nothing of value to give to people, because if I did, they would watch me, right? Every day I would look at my subscriber count and I would never see it go up. I would never see it increase. You might not believe me, but I really genuinely thought that making a YouTube channel was stupid. I thought, what was the point in this? Like, people in my class, like basically in my old school, people messaged me, laughing at me. Like, oh dude, how's the business? Yeah, hope it's going well. Yeah, cool YouTube videos. Like, I'm not gonna say all the messages because I don't want to expose anyone in general, but like, they just sent me DMs making fun of me. And I don't say these things to make you feel bad about me. Don't worry. I'm not trying to get your pity, right? But I'm telling you, this is the reality of things. So I'm going to show you, I don't really know if I'm going to do this, but I'm going to show you my 100 kind of subscriber video when I got my first 100 subscribers. I'm going to show you the video there. We're going to watch it together. Okay. It's a bit weird watching me and then me showing you watching me again, right? But let's take the final principle after we watch this video and let's finally dive deep into kind of understanding this whole moving in faith idea, which is what I've been talking about if you haven't figured out, right? So we're 75% of the way there. Let's round it off with something that every single prophet, right, especially Ibrahim alayhi salam, understood, and Allah kept reminding us in the Quran again, and this is the final piece of the puzzle that will help us finally destroy fear, unlock the life of our dreams, and be able to move forward in faith, bi'idhnillah.
This video is your sign to aim higher. I apologize for the background noise, but this is a sign from God for you guys. If you're subscribed to me, obviously that sign comes quicker to you, but you decided to click on it. And that desire for you to click on it is going to be due to loads of reasons. One, my thumbnail. It's not going to be edited. It's not going to be a great one. But number 2 is also the title. Either way, God urged you to click on this video. And I'm going to explain to you guys why. I'd like to quickly say, I want to thank you all for 108 subscribers, 106. Can't remember. Anyways, it's in the 3 digits, right? Which I'm very, very grateful for. Very grateful for all of you to be watching and for all of you to be with me, for all of you to be subscribed and hopefully to be gaining something from the videos that I make. Most importantly, as I said, this video is for you. And I want you guys to aim higher because I don't see 100 subscribers as a lot. By the way, I just found a £1 coin on the floor. Very lucky, subhanAllah, alhamdulillah. But I don't see 100 subscribers as a lot. I wouldn't even see 100,000 as a lot, to be honest with you. I'm set on 10 million. I'm set on changing 10 million people's lives. And some of you might think, well, Fedi, look around you. Hamza's not at that. Andrew Kirby's not at that. So many bigger YouTubers that are more charismatic, know more, do this, do that. They're not at that. So what makes you think that you'll get at that? And to be honest with you, I just think I can. I genuinely believe that I can. And I don't care necessarily how long it's going to take. I don't care if it's going to take 5 years, 10 years, 6 months. I genuinely do not care how long it's going to take. I genuinely believe and see myself getting to 10 million subscribers and me helping 10 million people get closer to God, change their life completely by making money online, but at the same time, like I said, getting closer to God while doing that. That's my vision. And my message to you all isn't just thank you, it's also to just aim higher. Aim higher than what you're currently aiming at. And you don't have to aim higher with the same time span, right? You don't have to aim, for example, for 10k a month in a year. You don't have to suddenly aim for 30k a month in a year. What I'm telling you is just aim higher. Look at the possibilities that you have, my brother. God has given you these desires for a reason. He has given you these desires to make you into a new man, to make you into someone better. You never know what your money is going to be used for. You never know what God has planned for you. He's put these desires inside you for you to chase them relentlessly. And guess what? You get given them when you chase them and you receive them. When you chase and receive, you get given. When you chase and help, you get given. God's universe is just. Those who work hard receive. Those who believe receive. You see, it all starts in the mind. Right now in front of me is 106 subscribers, not 10 million, but I see 10 million. Right now in your bank account, there may be £200, $200, $500, maybe $1,000. Maybe you're not making any money. Maybe none is coming in. You just have that money. Well, guess what, brother? It doesn't matter what it currently is. What matters is what you see it as. Who you see yourself as. It doesn't matter who you currently are. It's who you see. Aim higher. God wanted you to watch this video, so take action from it and aim higher. God bless you all. I'll see you tomorrow.
It's very, very weird seeing an old video of myself. I'll be honest with you. It's very, very weird. I didn't even have a beard. I didn't have anything. I had very short hair because I like shaved it all off. But I don't need to focus on the main message of that video. I need to look at one of the messages I said, which was Allah's universe is just. Allah's world is just. So Allah talks about justice a lot in Surah Al-Hadid and in a lot of other surahs in general. But he talks about justice. And the way he talks about justice is in the fact that everybody will receive their justice. Everybody will receive what they deserve. And depending on what you think you deserve, you're going to receive it in Allah's way. Okay? So, sabr is the only genuine way to receive justice. How do we know this? Well, if we look at it this way, okay, there's punishments in this life, and then there's punishments in the next. And oftentimes, the punishments in this life are way better, like they're not as bad as the punishments in the next. But what do people actually deserve? They deserve the punishments in the next life. But they have to wait for that. We all have to wait to see the people that we believe to be punished in the next life. But the same with the reward. Okay, it's not just with punishment, it's the same with the reward. You get rewarded in the next life more than you get rewarded in this life. You get rewarded with billions in this life. What's billions? When you die, the billions goes. It's no longer in your name. Everybody forgets you within 6 months. But in Jannah al-Firdaus, inshallah, or Jannah in general, everything you want is there. Everything you've ever wanted will be there. So when you look at it that way, you have to understand that if you want true justice, if you want to achieve your goals, you have to have sabr. You have to have sabr. And from nahiyat al-business, like from a business perspective, justice in regards to like who should be given the most money will come as well. It just takes more time because the market in the short term weighs things on short-term value, right? On the short term, it weighs on like how viral is this thing, right? Like how goofy is this person? How stupid do they look? In the long term, the market values things in value, right? In different values, like how unique is this person? How good are they at what they talk about? How good is their skill? So what you want to do is forget about the short term completely. You will never be rewarded handsomely in the short term, ever, ever. Like you're better off building a business for the next 10 years than you are just trying to make 10K per month this year. Because you'll make millions in 10 years time, millions. Whereas this one, I just need 10K per month to do that. Just focus on the long term. Focus on the long term. And when we talk about sabr, we cannot forget Aisha radiallahu anha. May Allah be pleased with her. Right? The mother of the mu'mineen. Because when she had that scandal, okay, which unrightfully she had her name ran through the mud, like dragged through the mud. Everybody was talking about her, saying these horrible things that she had done, which obviously she had not done. And if you don't know the story, I won't go necessarily too deep into details on it. But she was in her little caravan, right? And back then, they had like these big men that would carry like people, and she tried to remain modest, so she had everything covered basically, and it'd be like a little square of wood and like long sticks, and people would carry them. Muhammad Habibi, if you can have the example that you might know what I'm talking about. If you look up like Egyptian carriages, it should come up, akhi. So you can edit out me talking to you, Habibi, but yeah, if you see that, you should find it, inshallah. And then she had like these big men would carry her, and they were supposed to carry her on this little trip. And once they got to the desert, obviously they had to relieve themselves. She had to relieve themselves. So they went away first, and then she left the carriage and went away separately. And after she was done with her business, relieving herself, right? They ended up going back to the carriage. And because these men are so big and so strong, they picked it up, not even realizing Aisha radiallahu anha wasn't in there, and they just went forward. So when she got back to the spot and she was like, hold on a second, this is exactly where it was. I don't know how she would figure that out. The desert for me would be like, Allahu alam where this is. But she'd be like, this is exactly the spot. they've left me, and because she's so smart, she's like, do you know what? I'll stay exactly where I am because I'm sure somebody will find me. I'm sure they'll come back for me. Once they realize, when they arrive to their destination, that they forgot about me. I'm going to stay right here. And obviously the desert's hot. So she ended up collapsing after waiting for hours and hours and hours. And one of the Sahaba, one of the friends of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he ended up, scouting, because they used to have scouts back then to see if any enemies would attack. And basically, they ended up, seeing her, and they found her. And he found her, and he told her, he quickly shook her and then looked away from her so she could quickly cover herself because she was knocked out, right? And then when he brought her back into the city, people were whispering, right? The Prophet's uncle, not the good one, right? The Prophet's uncle was like, is she? Oh, I think something might have happened in the desert if those two were alone. Oh, and he went to someone else and he was like, oh, did you see her come back? Did you see her come back with another man and not the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So he probably didn't say that. But he basically just whispered. He whispered nasty things about her. How embarrassed do you think she would have been? Not only is she married to the most holy man alive, the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, this man was one of the holiest men alive at the time as well. One of the early members, right, of Islam. One of the early adopters of Islam. He probably wouldn't have raised her on any such horrible things. And when people told her, she was confused. She was so innocent. She was confused what they were talking about. She didn't even know what they were insinuating. She had no idea what they were talking about. And when all of this embarrassment was going through, right, and the Prophet, obviously his heart was aching because he was thinking maybe these things are true. But she locked her away. She locked herself away. She locked herself away at her mother's house. She didn't even stay with her father, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. She didn't even live with the Prophet after this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She stayed alone at home with her mum, waiting for Allah to bring her justice. And when finally the ayat, I believe in either Surah Al-Imran or Surah Maryam, I can't remember exactly, or it might be in a different surah, it might be even Surah Yusuf, one of these three surahs. Basically, the proof was brought to basically prove her innocence. And her mother comes in, she's like, Aisha, ya habibti. She might have not said that, but go on, go thank the Prophet. Aisha radiallahu anha was like, why should I thank the Prophet? Why should I thank him? It was Allah that brought the proof. It was Allah that gave him the wahy. It was Allah that brought down these ayat. So look at her as an example of incredible amount of sabr. Even when she had her name dragged through the mud, she could not even see her husband and he could not see his wife. She could not even see her father out of shame that she felt on something that was not even true. Sabr is the way we get true justice. Sabr is the way you get exactly what you want. So if every single day you're like, cool, I'm gonna move, right? You got tawakkul, you're improving your tawakkul, you're increasing your tawakkul, you're continuously moving, you're being more disciplined, right? You hear fear, you hear the whispers of shaitan, you're like, get out of here, fear. You punch it out the way. And then all of a sudden, you realize this is gonna take some time. This isn't gonna happen instantly. So don't get disappointed, ya akhi, if it takes a long time, my brother. Because like I said in the video, Allah put this desire in your heart, and one of the tests is a test of patience, sabr. Now, sabr gets misunderstood by a lot of brothers and sisters these days, and they misunderstand what sabr means. Sabr doesn't just mean patience, okay? Because we know what patience is. Patience is what? Patience is actively waiting, not passively waiting, actively waiting. It means continuing to take action. It means continuing to improve, continuing to do what you can do every single day, but waiting for the outcome. You don't wait to take the action, you wait for the outcome because you realize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like we said in the tawakkul part, is the only one that can bring the action for you. He's the only one that can do that. So therefore, you just have to wait for the outcome. But you do not wait to take the action. You continuously take the action every single day. You're moving, you're active. But also, perseverance. Perseverance, ya akhwan. I cannot tell you how many times I hear a brother message me and be like, Fedi, things are getting tough. Could you please help me with this? Could you please help me with that? I'm like, of course. They want to take the easy way out. They want to give up. They want to give up on their business because suddenly the studies got hard, because suddenly something new in their life came up. They want to give up. Why? Because they don't have sabr. Sabr is not just patience, it's perseverance. So I'm telling you now, if you're watching this video and you thought of giving up, do not ever give up. Giving up is the death of you. When you give up is when you have failed. Every other time when you keep moving forward, even if you don't hit your goal, because remember, you don't control the outcome. Who are you to control the outcome? You have failed once you have given up. That's when you die. That's when you give up. That's when shaitan wins. That's when fear has beaten you and you've become a weak shell of a man. Allah didn't place this desire in your heart for you to give up on it, did He? This isn't down to you. There's more to this than you think there is. There's more to you pushing a rock up a hill than just pushing a rock up the hill. There's more to it. There's more to this desire than just making money. There's more to wanting to help your family than just helping your family. Allah is fully on our team. If He's put this desire in your heart, it's because it's bigger than you. It's not you. It's not you. It's Him. Everything is down to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every single thing. Everything. So you have to persevere. Because when things get tough, even when you're disciplined every single day, okay, and you don't see the outcome and you're starting to become disappointed because you don't see the outcome, which by the way, disappointment is literally just unmet expectations. So let go of the expectations completely. Let go of them. But you start getting disappointed, you're like, Fedi, I've tried so hard, I've done so much, come on, why am I not receiving my goals? Why am I not? Like, first of all, look at two things. Number one, am I actually doing the action? Have I got tawakkul? Am I moving forward, right? Like, am I pushing the rock up? And secondly, look at yourself and be honest. Look at yourself and be honest. If I'm doing the work that I need to be doing, am I trusting Allah? Tawakkul and sabr go hand in hand. Tawakkul and sabr go hand in hand. You have to be patient and you have to persevere. You have to let go of this notion of controlling the outcome and realizing that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can control the outcome. Only He can. So when you are patient, when you persevere during hard times, I have been in some very, very horrible situations in my life. And the best example I can think of perseverance, Ummi, Rabbi Fadalha, right? And I hope Rabbi Fadl Ummak too. I hope your mother does amazing. And I hope Allah gives her all the blessings that she deserves. Genuinely, we should all love our mothers, all take care of our mothers. And I hope my kids one day love their mothers so much. They love their mother so much, right? Because my kids will love her more than I can love her. Right? Kids and mums have an amazing relationship. Anyways, when we lost our grandma, Rabbi Yarhamha, in 2009, 2010 in Tunis, we were going through a very tough time, financially and other aspects as well. You know, my mum and my dad weren't getting along. And as a kid, I learned the kind of importance of sabr and perseverance very early on. Because I hated the school that I went to. I hated kind of the energy in the house. I hated everything, basically. And for me, it was not a question of waiting because I have no idea. I'm a kid. I have no idea when things are going to happen. It was about persevering. It was about every single day when I showed up to school, it was smiling and trying to do the best that I could. It was every single day trying to eat food that my mum was happy with. It was every single day not nagging her to buy me things. It was every single day giving her kisses and hugs. That is an act of perseverance. You cannot give up. You cannot give up. Because the second you give up is the second you've said no to the best future that Allah can bring to you. And I cannot imagine the pain I would have brought onto my mother, my brother, and everyone in my family if I had given up back then. I can't imagine it. So please, and I tell you this from the bottom of my heart, as you can tell, have sabr. Don't stop moving forward. In this entire video, I hope you can sense the energy I've been giving to you to understand that you are fully capable of achieving the thing you want to achieve. Just stop giving in to fear. This entire video was about one specific topic. One topic that has changed my life. One topic that has made me the man that I am today. One topic that has made me fall in love with Allah again and again and again. One topic that I believe will change your life. And one topic that I hope will change the world one day. One topic that I hope will shape the Ummah of the future. One topic that I hope will save us Muslims from the hardships that we are dealing with today. And that is faith. And I don't just say faith in terms of Iman, because of course, that's how we could define it. But moving in faith. Moving regardless of what we feel, moving regardless of the fear that we have, moving regardless of the obstacles in our lives, moving regardless of how big our enemies are, how powerful we assume them to be, moving regardless of our limitations, moving regardless of our fears, moving regardless of our past, moving regardless of who is around us in our environment, moving regardless of what people tell us, moving regardless of the whispers, moving regardless. We move because that proves our faith. And every single day, I want you to move in absolute faith with aggression. And not aggression to harm somebody or anybody, but aggression to just be like, I'm doing it. I'm going to achieve my goal. Because that is all that is asked of you. When a desire is placed in your heart, what is asked of you is for you to pursue it. Not to achieve it, but to pursue it. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will decide when you achieve it. And if you achieve it. But he placed that desire in your heart for you to move forward, to test your faith. So move forward in absolute faith that no matter what happens, I will be okay. No matter what happens, if I try my best, I will achieve my goal. No matter what happens, I will move because this feeling was placed in my heart by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I can honor one of the greatest honors Allah gives is keeping your heart open and protecting your heart. So if He has placed a desire in there, it's that He has kept it open for you. So understand this, moving in faith is moving against fear. Everything that you fear, you do. Everything you are scared to do, you do anyway. Moving in faith is realizing that whatever limitation, whatever fear you have, whatever environment you're in, you will move towards the goals that have been placed in your heart. Because moving in faith is what genuinely unlocks everything that you want from life. I give you the monetary example because I'm an entrepreneur. I give you the example because I'm an entrepreneur to be making 10K per month, to be making 6 figures, okay? Yes, alhamdulillah, I make a decent amount of money, alhamdulillah. But I could lose it all tomorrow. And the one thing I would have learned and taken away, and I'm showing you right here in this video, is faith. I move in faith. Everything I'm scared to do, I do. Because I know what I'm scared to do is what I should be doing. And I know every single day that the obstacles I have in my life are created in my mind. I create the obstacles. Because where focus goes, energy flows. So if I focus my energy onto obstacles, I give those obstacles power. I know that my limitations are mere current limitations, and I can go beyond them. I can become a new person tomorrow if I move forward in faith. And I know my environment can change, and my environment will never be an excuse, because my excuses only serve shaitan. They only serve my old self. They don't serve my new self. So move forward in faith. This whole talk, this whole video that you watched was a masterclass on faith. And moving forward, regardless of what you're scared of, moving forward in faith, in absolute faith that Allah has your back, in absolute faith that Allah gave you this desire for a reason, in absolute faith that you will be okay by the end of it, in absolute faith that you will achieve it, in absolute faith. Is that not the purpose of life, would you say? Is that not a part of the purpose of life? Because I think the purpose of life is just to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But is this not a form of worship? Is this not, ya akhwan, the best thing we can do to prove ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we trust Him, that we love Him, to move in faith? And I would be lying to you if I said that the thing that made me successful was my business model. The thing that made me successful, yes, there are business models that help, whatever. But genuinely, the thing that made me successful was the faith that I kept moving forward in. That's it. I was afraid of things, I didn't want to do things, but when I kept moving in faith, I achieved the goals that I had set in mind. Alhamdulillah. And this is for everything in life. Everything in life. And alhamdulillah, wallahi alhamdulillah, I could have never imagined being blessed this much by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To be able to speak to you today, to be able to have you, wallahi alhamdulillah, watch me. Someone who's maybe across the world from you, or somebody who's just your next door neighbor potentially. As Muslims, unity is what's going to keep us together. Unity is what's going to make us strong. And it's one of the reasons I created Pillars of the Ummah, the paid thing that me and Muhammad have, my business partner. And it's one of the reasons that I have the Ummah United, which is the free school community you can join, is to have us united. Most importantly, to have us united towards a goal, which is becoming the best as entrepreneurs that we can be. Because once we become the best entrepreneurs as Muslims, I genuinely believe we can change the world. Genuinely. Because as Muslim entrepreneurs, the backbone of society in itself right now, okay, I'm not saying forever, but right now is entrepreneurs, because we're the people that move against our fears, we're the people that move in faith, we're the people that achieve our goals, we're the people that create change in society. So if you want to be part of that movement, feel free to join the free school community. Inshallah, we'll be helping you to get to 10K per month and above, and obviously to have the freedom to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's my goals with these videos, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, Ya Rabbil Alameen, Inshallah, Rabbi yarzuqik bil mal, yughnik bil mal, and may He give you peace in your life. And yarhamhak min dhunubik, right? Warika rahmah, He shows you mercy in the little details and the little sins that you've done. Ya Rabbil Alameen. Say Ameen. Right. And that's it. Inshallah, I get to see you as one of my subscribers. See you in the comment section. Rabbi Fadlik. And Jazakallah al khair. Assalamu alaikum.